Blessed Monday to you as we come with your daily encouragement. And we are still in the book of Revelation. And guess what? We have reached the seventh seal. Now, for those of you maybe are joining us for the first time, you're probably going, well, what's the big deal about the seventh seal? Well, we've been going through the other seals a couple of videos ago. So I invite you to go back in the library and be able to see that. It should be about a week and a half ago when we were in Revelation chapter 5 and 6. We went through the four horsemen of the apocalypse, where the first four seals. And then we went into the challenge of all the mighty things that were happening in the world, the changes that were about ready to take place. And as everything moves in sevens, we arrive at today. So we should expect something interesting. But guess what? It's going to be a little turn of events, the way the book of Revelation is structured. So in Revelation chapter 8, it says, when the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. I know I've experienced, maybe you have, a silence for a minute. Sometimes that can be very disconcerting. There is a booth in Minneapolis. It's a former sound recording place. And it is famous to being the silentest, the most quiet place on earth. And I can't remember how long it takes before they tell people that literally, if you're in there, you will go insane because the lack of sound, any sound, is very disconcerting to our own bodies. We need to be bombarded with sound. I'll talk about that at some other point, that I think there's something divine happening with that. But the seventh seal, there was silence for about a half an hour. It's the last of the seals, so there's got to be an expectation. What's going to happen? Then I saw seven angels, once again, the seven again, who stand before God with seven trumpets given to them. And this is the teaser that happens. At the end of these seals are seven trumpets. At the end of seven trumpets will be seven something else. We'll get to that. It's this whole, we've reached the end, but not quite yet. Keeps us hanging a little bit. Another angel with a golden censer came and stood at the altar. That's like a bowl that pours in the smoke. And he was given a great quantity of incense to offer the prayers of the saints on the golden altar before thy throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angels. Now, what's going on there? We already have heard about the prayers of God being like incense. In fact, one of the most famous prayers that we have for usually evening prayer in our Lutheran book of worship and through many books of worship is, let my prayers rise up before you as incense. Now, I have not had the privilege of being a pastor of a church that uses incense on a regular basis. As having many family members with allergies, it's not a popular practice, at least in our household, although many churches do that because they want to represent the not only God in visual representation, not only in sound representation, but even in a smell. Although some may argue that there is a church smell sometimes and we try to get rid of it. But there is a smell of incense to remind us that the prayers of God's people are ascending before the throne. And a few chapters ago, we heard there were the souls of those who had been killed or martyred or witnessed and are saying, how long, O Lord, before the end of all things? And it seems that with the seventh seal, that those prayers are ascending before heaven, if not all prayers. And that is the prayer and the cry of our heart, especially when we have new conflicts happening in our world, whether it be Ukraine or Russia, which we've been going through for at least 2 years, Or maybe it's even the conflict happening in Israel and Palestine or other things. We cry out, "How long, O Lord?" Or the political conflict happening within our own nation, our own state, and all other factors. "How long, O Lord, before you come to make things right?" And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. Now, if I may have an aside here, I know this could be a vision of the future, but it also could be a vision of today because, as I said with our psalms that we sing at evening prayer, Psalm 145 and others, we're reminded that the prayers of God are prayers of incense. And we're lifting up, we want release from the political things of this world. And actually, Revelation is kind of focused on that. We want relief from the medical things of this world when we get diagnoses and struggles and ailments as we get older. We want release from that. Maybe it's the destruction of our children and going the wrong way. We want release from that. Or you name it, there's a lot of things that we enjoy in life, and there's a lot of things we wish would be finally taken care of. Those prayers, at least from this passage, are ever before the Lord, not just at the end times, but today. And once again, that's the fun of the book of Revelation. Whose ever timeline gets everyone all excited. And so people start to put this passage in yesterday, in the far future, in the near future, wherever, where we fail to think about the experience that John is having and the experience that we can have by just simply reading it and let all the timelines get all messed up. That's my biggest thing with a lot of predictors of this book. They get messed up in their timelines rather than let's just see how the story unfolds and let's just experience this anew. And the smoke of the incense and the prayers of the saints rose before God from the band of angels. Then an angel took a censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now, if you want a slightly different image of this, where he took a censer and filled it with fire, he put it on the lips of the prophet Isaiah in Isaiah 6. And that's where Isaiah became the great prophet of the Old Testament. In fact, the greatest of the prophets. That's why he's listed first. He has the most writings attributed to him. That's the only reason why Isaiah goes first. It's not in chronological order, it's by breadth, and Isaiah is the great prophet. But instead of giving it to John or to any other person to be the prophet, the fire and the purposes of God are thrown on the earth. Peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and earthquake. Now, to some extent, those are natural phenomenon, regardless of whether they are gods or not. But we're reminded that all of those are to be signs for us that things in this world are not as stable as they appear. This past week in our worship service, we talked about Jesus holding up the coin of the emperors, and where we could probably say the economy is what is everyone's number one concern. It's usually the way that many Americans vote is whether it's going to be good or bad for their pocket or their bottom line. I think, unfortunately, for that type of politics, we're moving out of that. Nothing needs to be our foundation except Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ's purposes. Oh, but there's so much suffering when those things get all wound up and out of sorts. Yes. And that's what these times are to remind us when there's earthquake, thunders, and rumblings. Who do we ultimately lift our prayers to? And according to Revelation 8, either in the future or today, they are lifted up like incense before God. God bless you today. We trust that these continue to be words of encouragement. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.